Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Radha Madhava Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Radha Shama Sundar Radhe Jai Radha Shama Sundar Radhe Jai Jaya Prabhupada Jai Jaya Prabhupada Jai Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Shri Radha Madhav ki jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai Hare Krishna, welcome everyone. Hari Dhani Prabhu, I think there's some sound coming from your Zoom. Maybe. Hare Krishna, thank you. So I very grateful to be here, part of this series, which is such a nice series. It's like so inspiring to hear the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam this past week from different devotees. And today is our humble attempt in trying to contribute to that series. And I chose this verse from Canto 7, chapter 14, text 3 and 4. And this verse is, this verse and this chapter, I thought was very relevant for all of us because the chapter's name is Ideal Family Life. So in this chapter, Maharaj Yudhishthir hears from Narad Muni on ideal family life. How can particularly we householders who are stuck in the in this entanglement of material life, how can we become free and go back home, back to Godhead, back to Krishna? How can we become liberated? So so the Bhagavatam is spoken for everyone, and particularly it begins by saying that this is a Paramahansa Samhita. It's spoken for the Paramahansas, for those in the renounced order of life, for those who are self-realized. Really, it's spoken for the highest audience. And in addition, so we may feel that, well, it's too beyond me, it's too above me. But here in this chapter, particularly, it's giving instructions for householders, and the verse is very relevant to our meditation on Srimad Bhagavatam and how to get free from material life. So please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shrinvam Bhagavato Bhikshnam Avatara Kathamritam Shraddhano Yatha Kalam Upashanta Janavrita Satsangat Chanakai Sangam Atmajayatmajadishu Vimunchen Muchyamaneshu Swayam Swapnavad Utitha Shrinvan Bhagavato Bhikshnam Avatara Kathamritam Shraddhano Yatha Kalam Upashanta Janavrita Satsangach Chanakai Sangam Atmajayatmajadishu Vimunchen Muchyamaneshu Swayam Swapnavaduttita. Also, we were supposed to select our favorite verse. So this is one of my favorite verses, being a householder myself, a very, you could say, very guiding verse, very practical verse for all of us, especially for myself. Synonyms: Shrinvan, hearing; Bhagavata, of the Lord; Abhikshnam, always; Avatara, of the incarnations; Katha, narrations; Amritam, the nectar; Shraddhana, being very faithful in hearing about the Supreme Personality of Godhead; Yatha Kalam, according to time. Generally, a grahastha can find time in the evening or in the afternoon. Even in the word-for-word meaning, Jesse Prabhupada is like giving comments as part of his word-for-word meaning. According to time means when a grahastha can find time. It doesn't have to be 5 a.m. in the morning. He says generally grahastha can find time in the evening or in the afternoon. Upashanta, completely relieved of material activities. Jana, by persons. Avrita, being surrounded. Satsangat, from such good association. Shanakai, gradually. Sangam, association. Atma, in the body. Jaya, wife. Atma ja adishu, as well as in children. Vimunchet, one should get free from the attachment for such association. Muchyamaneshu, being severed from him. Swayam, personally. Swapnavat, like a dream. Utitha, awakened. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. A grahastha must associate again and again with saintly persons, and with great respect he must hear the nectar of the activities of the Supreme Lord and His incarnations, as these activities are described in Srimad Bhagavatam and other Puranas. Thus one should gradually become detached from affection for his wife and children, exactly like a man awakening from a dream. Once again, a grahastha must associate again and again with saintly persons, and with great respect he must hear the nectar of the activities of the Supreme Lord and His incarnations, as these activities are described in Srimad Bhagavatam and other Puranas. Thus one should gradually become detached from affection for his wife and children, exactly like a man awakening from a dream. Purport. The Krishna conscious movement has been established to give grahasthas all over the world an opportunity to hear Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita specifically. The process, as described in many ways, is one of hearing and chanting Shrinvatam Svakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana. Once again, this sentence so nice. The process, as described in many ways, is one of hearing and chanting. Everyone, especially the grahasthas who are mudhadhi, ignorant about the goal of life, should be given opportunities to hear about Krishna. Simply by hearing, by attending lectures in the different centers of the Krishna consciousness movement, where topics of Krishna from Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam are discussed, they will be purified of their sinful inclination for constant indulgence in illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling, which have all become prominent in modern days. Thus they can be raised to the status of light, Punya Shravana Kirtana, simply by joining the Kirtan, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And by hearing about Krishna from Bhagavad Gita, one must be purified, especially if he also takes prasada. This is all going on in the Krishna consciousness movement. Another specific description here is Shinvan Bhagavato Bhikshnam Avatara Kathamritam. It is not that because one has once finished Bhagavad Gita, he should not hear it again. The word abhikshnam is very important. We should hear again and again. There's no question of stopping. Even if one has read these topics many times, he should go on reading again and again, because Bhagavad Katha, the words spoken by Krishna and spoken by Krishna's devotees about Krishna, are amritam, nectar. The more one drinks this amritam, the more he advances in his eternal life. The human form of life is meant for liberation, but unfortunately, due to the influence of Kali Yuga, every day the grihasthas are working hard like asses. Early in the morning they rise and travel even 100 miles away to earn bread. Especially in the Western countries, I have seen that people awaken at 5 o'clock to go to offices and factories to earn their livelihood. People in Calcutta and Bombay also do this every day. They work very hard in the office or factory, and again they spend 3 or 4 hours in transportation returning home. Then they retire at 10 o'clock and again rise early in the morning to go to their offices and factories. This kind of hard labor is described in the Shastras as a life of pigs and stool eaters. Nayam deha deha bhajan riloke, kashtana kaman arate vidabhujanye. Of all living entities who have accepted material bodies in this world, one who has been awarded this human form should not work hard day and night simply for sense gratification, which is available even for dogs and hogs that eat stool. Bhagavatam 5:5-1. One must find time for hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. This is Vedic culture. Once again, this sentence, very nice. One must find some time for hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. This is Vedic culture. One should work 8 hours at the most to earn his livelihood. And either in the afternoon or in the evening, a householder should associate with devotees to hear about the incarnations of Krishna and his activities, and thus be gradually liberated from the clutches of Maya. However, instead of finding time to hear about Krishna, the householders, after working hard in offices and factories, find time to go to a restaurant or a club, where instead of hearing about Krishna and his activities, they are very much pleased to hear about the political activities of demons and non-devotees, and to enjoy sex, wine, and women, and meat, and in this way waste their time. This is not Grahastha life, but demoniac life. The Krishna consciousness movement, however, with its centers all over the world, gives such fallen and condemned persons an opportunity to hear about Krishna. In a dream, we form a society of friendship and love. And when we awaken, we see that it has ceased to exist. Similarly, one's gross society, family, and love are also a dream. And this dream will be over as soon as one dies. Therefore, whether one is dreaming in a subtle way or a gross way, these dreams are all false and temporary. One's real business is to understand that one is a soul, aham brahmasmi, and that his activities should therefore be different. Then one can be happy. Brahmabhuta prasannatma rashochati nakangshati samasarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labate param. One who is transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed toward all living entities, and in that state he attains pure devotional service unto me. One who is engaged in devotional service can very easily be liberated from the dream of materialistic life. Om Jnanam Timarandhasya Jnananjana Shlakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mayam Dadati Svapadantika. Once again, the verse. A grihastha must associate again and again with saintly persons, and with great respect he must hear the nectar of the activities of the Supreme Lord and his incarnations, as these activities are described in Srimad Bhagavatam and other Puranas. Thus, one should gradually become detached from affection for his wife and children, exactly like a man awakening from a dream. So, we all have the experience of dreaming. In fact, modern science tells us that every person dreams every night. Sometimes we remember the dream, and sometimes we don't remember the dream. But all of us, we dream every single night. And this is why dreaming is actually a very empirical experience of entering into another world, being completely absorbed in that world, and forgetting one's real identity. Just like we've seen a man who's lying in his bed and he's dreaming, and he's lying in his bed and he's shouting, he's screaming in his bed, save me from the tiger, save me from the tiger. Yesterday, Balaram was dreaming in his sleep, and he was arguing with Sita in his dream. Give me that thing, give me this thing. And that person is screaming, but if you see that person, he's actually very peacefully lying in his bed of feathers, with his feather pillow, in his comforters. There's no fear, there's no you could say no danger. Yet, because at that time, one is identifying with that dream body. One is thinking that a tiger is chasing me. One is 100% convinced that a tiger is chasing him and that he's that person who he is seeing him to be in a dream. And this is the great illusion. This is actually a great illusion. This is something that we don't have to accept by faith. Actually, many people in many different traditions, many scholars, philosophers in the world's religions have observed this phenomena, that how the dream can be so, one can be so misled. The dream can be so misleading. And there's one Chinese Taoist philosopher. His name was Cheng Su. And he was a monk in a monastery. He would be living in a monastery. And one day he was anxiously walking around the monastery. And the night before, he had a dream that he was a butterfly walking, flying around, smelling the roses, different roses and flowers like this. And he was asking all of his fellow monks. He was saying that, am I a monk dreaming that I'm a butterfly? Or am I a butterfly dreaming that I'm a monk? Right? At night, he was completely convinced that he was a butterfly. And so he was thinking that he's a butterfly. When he wakes up in the morning, then he thinks that, oh, I'm actually a monk dreaming that I'm a butterfly. But at night, he was a butterfly, maybe dreaming that he's a monk. So he says, which one is it? Am I a monk dreaming that I'm a butterfly, or am I a butterfly dreaming that I'm a monk? And this is a very difficult question, because in both situations, he was completely convinced that he's a butterfly or a monk. Similarly, in the Western tradition, Plato asked this question. He writes in his book, The Theaetetus, he asks Socrates, in Theaetetus, the disciple is asking Socrates is challenging his disciple, that what proof could you give if anyone should ask us now, at the present moment, whether we are asleep and our thoughts are a dream, or whether we are awake and talking with each other in a waking condition, right? So Socrates asks his disciple, how can you prove to me that right now this conversation that I'm having is not a conversation in a dream? And that after a few hours, we're going to wake up and realize, oh, actually, we were dreaming and we were talking in our dream. Just like sometimes when you teach a lot, like I teach at the university, I'm also teaching in the dream, right? I'm talking to the students in the dream, all these things in a dream. So even normal conversations we do in the dream. So how can we be sure that we're not in a dream? So actually, the Srimad Bhagavatam is telling us that this is and so Socrates' conclusion after this whole discussion is that we cannot be sure. We cannot know whether or not we are awake or we are dreaming, because the dreams that we have at night, they could be dreams within dreams, and our present state could just be the dream state. And so we cannot be sure. And so therefore he says, in fact, Socrates says, we are dreaming right now. And there's also a Christian philosopher. His name was Pedro Calderon. He also observed this, and he wrote this book, Life is a Dream. And in that book, Pedro Calderon says that, in fact, this life of 100 years is a dream. It's just a 100-year dream. And it's a dream. And coming to God is awakening from that dream. And so therefore he says, if it is a dream, if it is actually a dream, then he says, what gain could be so great and what loss could be so big? Because in the dream, we sometimes think that we are a prince and we're riding on a white horse, or we think we are, a king, and we may lose it. We may lose everything in the dream. But what does one have to lose? or gain in the dream. Everything is going to be lost anyway. No one wakes up from the dream and then cries, oh, in the dream, I lost my palace, and I lost my, queens, and I lost my children, and I lost everything. No, we knew that we're going to lose it anyway. And why is a dream called a dream? It's an actual experience. It's a matter of a real, tangible experience. It's called a dream because it has a beginning and an end. The dream has a start and has a finish. And because it has a beginning and an end, we know that it won't stick to us. There's no ultimate reality to it. It was false anyway. Even though it's real experience and we're, fully enjoying it and fully convinced that we're there, we know that it's a dream when we wake up because it must have an end. It's short. It's flickering. So the Bhagavatam tells us that in fact, this is the case. That just like at night, we experience a few minutes of a dream. What we call life is a 100-year dream. It's just a longer dream, but it's also a dream. Why? Because it has a beginning and an end. And therefore, the most common metaphor that the Srimad Bhagavatam uses to describe our human condition, to describe our condition in this world, is the dream state. The Srimad Bhagavatam, over 60 times in 60 different places, it compares material life, our physical life, to like a person in a dream, sapnavat, like a dream. In this verse also, it's being described that our life is very much like a dream. And just like when a person is shouting and screaming in their bed at night, the simple solution to all their suffering, right? When they're so distressed at night, they're crying, they want this, they want food, they want water, a tiger is chasing them. What is the solution for all their pains? What is they have so many difficulties in so many different dreams. What is the solution? The simple solution is to wake them up. The moment we shake them and we wake them up, that whole problem is gone. All the problems of that person are finished. They realize, oh, I'm in my home, in my nice bed. Thank God, we wake up, oh, thank God that's not true. Sometimes in dreams, especially when you become adults, the main thing, more than fear, is you put yourself in embarrassing situations, right? I do so many embarrassing things in my dreams. And then when I wake up, I think, oh, thank God it's a dream. Actually, no one knows that I did this, or I saw this, or I felt this, or I was thinking this. It's such a relief. So all of these problems, Prabhupada says, this material life is an embarrassing situation. We are embarrassed by everything, by time, by our health, by our wealth, by our family, by our society, by our, by our own lack of intelligence. But when we wake up from this material life, we realize, oh, this is all a dream. And so the first line in this purport, Prabhupada says, the Krishna consciousness movement has been established to give grihasthas all over the world an opportunity to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Why? Because Srimad Bhagavatam and the pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam are waking us up from this dream of material life. And the Srimad Bhagavatam is describing the real world, the alternate world. The Srimad Bhagavatam is describing a world that is actually our home. And it's allowing us to absorb our consciousness in that world so that we can wake up from our material temporary world. Just like when a person is dreaming, then the solution is very simple. They have to wake up. But they cannot do it themselves. This is the problem. By themselves, sometimes while you're dreaming, you can realize that you're dreaming. But you cannot wake yourself up from that dream. Now, the way Krishna's made the body, that eventually the body wakes you up. But in the absence of that, the way that a person awakens from the dream is someone outside has to come and shake them. Right? When Sita and Balaram were really, especially when she was young, Sita would get so many dreams. You could see she was bringing memories from past life. All children do. And sometimes she would be weeping in her dream. And so we would shake her and we would wake her up. She could not wake herself up. Someone had to shake her to wake her up. In the same way, we who are in this dream of material life, completely absorbed in our 100-year dream, we cannot wake up ourselves. We need the help. And that help comes in two forms. The first form that help comes is in the form of the pure devotees of the Lord. The devotees of the Lord, the saintly persons, they wake us up from this dream. And secondly, what do the devotees do? They speak to us about Srimad Bhagavatam. It comes in the form of the person Bhagavatam and the book Bhagavatam. And they will wake us up from this dream. So Srimad Bhagavatam is therefore, we say, is the solution to all problems. Why is it the solution to all problems? Because it's actually giving the real solution. And this whole Krishna conscious movement, Prabhupada writes, is an opportunity it's to give people an opportunity to hear and chant. Prabhupada says, this is our main business. This is why we should not reduce that. We can reduce other things, but we should not reduce that. And here again, all of our centers are meant to discuss topics of Krishna. And so Prabhupada, just final point here, and then we'll have some discussion. Prabhupada writes how, in one place, he says, if this life is a dream, then what are our dreams at night? They are dreams within dreams. So at night, when we're dreaming within a dream. This is a dream. When we wake up from this life, when we come to spiritual life, then we're awakening from that dream. But the question that is raised is then, how do we know that when we have awakened, we are actually in a state of reality? Like, oh, now I'm awake, so now I'm not dreaming anymore. Maybe when we awaken, we're also dreaming. Maybe after this life, we get liberation. We think we're liberated, but we're also dreaming. So how will we know that at any point we're actually awake? And Srila Prabhupada, our acharyas, this is actually a big problem in Western philosophy. It's called the dream within the dream problem. And there's no solution to it. They say, well, we could always be dreaming. In Western philosophy, they have no solution to this. But Prabhupada and the Bhagavatam give us a solution. They say that when we awaken and we're in a state where there's no end, it's eternal, then we know that we're not dreaming. Why? Maybe it could be an eternal dream. No, because if it's eternal, then dream or no dream, that is the reality, because that reality isn't going to change. The reason why a dream is because it's temporary. Right? The Shastras are not being pessimistic and calling our life a dream and these things. No, they're being realistic. It's temporary. Everything is temporary. We're going to awaken from this life at some point anyway. So in our sleeping condition, we're sleeping, and we're going to, a dream is called a dream because it has a beginning and an end. But when we come to a state which is eternal, then it's the end of the dream. So Srila Prabhupada says that when we serve Krishna in the dream, which is this material life, and we are so absorbed in him that even in the dream of our dream, we are serving him, we are hearing about him, we are thinking about Srimad Bhagavatam in the dream within our dream at night. He says, then Krishna breaks us out of the dream. So the pure devotees of the Lord, they are even dreaming of Krishna at night. So this life itself is a dream. They're serving Krishna in the dream, but even in the dream of the dream, which is the dreaming at night, they're also serving Krishna. And when that becomes so absorbed, then Krishna, when we serve Krishna, Prabhupada says, in the dream within the dream, then Krishna breaks us out of the dream. So this is a very wonderful meditation. Just by hearing and reading Srimad Bhagavatam, we can attain all perfection. And this verse is not saying that we should neglect or not be affectionate to our family. but rather it is saying that by reading Srimad Bhagavatam, the attachment disappears. So the affection, the duty, the activities is still there, but the attachment is not there. And that is, just yesterday, Maharaj was saying this, that seva we must do, the service we must do, but we don't have to do that service with attachment. We can do that with detachment. And then one is completely happy. So the Bhagavatam is not ruining our family life, but the chapter is called Ideal Family Life. And the ideal family life is one, obviously if it's ideal, it's a happy family life, right? It's not, the chapter's title is not breaking out of family life. It's ideal family life. And it's saying that if we are absorbed in our Bhagavatam and our hearing and our service, then we become ideal. So how? Because the attachment goes away. And in a detached situation, we can act without suffering, without the pangs of material life. And very important point that's being described here is the association of the Mahatmas or the great persons. This is actually the number one message of the Bhagavatam, just statistically in terms of the verses, that again and again the Bhagavatam tells us that the householders especially, if they want to reach Krishna, they can't do it by themselves. There's too much entanglement. There's too much work. Prabhupada is talking about this in the purport. Day and night, we must work. Day and night, we're absorbed in different things. The only way out is to again and again associate with saintly persons, to serve them, to associate with them. And these saintly persons can be our own family members. Charity begins at home. We must associate with our family members as devotees, being devotees, respecting them and seeing them as devotees. And when we do that, and when we're constantly absorbed in hearing and chanting Srimad Bhagavatam with one another, with the great souls, the Mahatmas as well, then all life becomes perfect. It becomes perfectly happy. Prabhupada remembers in his childhood how his father would call 10 sadhus to his home every day. He would invite 10 sadhus and feed them every day. And his father's reasoning, he knew, Prabhupada would ask his father that, why are you bringing these sadhus in? They're smoking cigarettes, they're asking for money. All of them don't seem very elevated. And Prabhupada's father said, yes, I know most of them are not self-realized. But he said that my father said that if even one of them is a pure devotee of the Lord, then they will bless my son to become a pure devotee of Haicharan. And Prabhupada said, because of those blessings, I've done what I've done now. So he is thinking that even if one of them is a pure devotee, my life is successful. And I was thinking that in Kali Yuga, how unfortunate is this age that now, before Prabhupada's time, they would call 10 sadhus in their home every day. And also life was designed that way. People could do it. It's not just the fault of the grihasthas. They had, support systems, and, life was easier. But now because of Kali Yuga, people are not able to invite a sadhu even one day of the year, even one sadhu one day. It's so difficult. People are, well, I have this, that, I cannot make this. And the sadhus are going around looking for homes where they can glorify the Lord. But Prabhupada here is saying that as aspiring devotees, we don't have the time. We're very busy, but we must make the time. He says this. We must find the time. There's one verse here, one sentence here. However, here he says, yes, one must find time for hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. So my problem also is, especially with small children, you don't have time. There's no time. In the day you're working by nighttime, they're just waiting to play or go to the park. And In the morning, you have to chant your rounds. And so where do you find time to associate with great saintly persons and hear Srimad Bhagavatam? But Prabhupada is saying one must find time for hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. One must earn his livelihood, but whatever one can do in 8 hours, not be too ambitious. And find time to hear about Krishna instead of working hard in factories. And this is actually Prabhupada's fact that Prabhupada says that in the Bhagavad Gita, he says that the devotee molds his life in such a way that he can actually find time to hear and chant about Krishna. So we don't have the time, but we have to mold our life in such a way so we have the time. And that's our duty, that's our responsibility, our effort. And by reading Srimad Bhagavatam, very quickly, what is troublesome in the heart becomes removed, and we develop a different consciousness. We become more absorbed in the real world. The real world, Krishna's spiritual world, becomes more important for us, and the material world, the material things, and the ups and downs in it become less important. So we start to awaken from this dream. So I'm already 15 minutes over. I'll stop here if anyone has any comments or questions.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much for a nice class. So, so I was thinking two things, Prabhu. One is, the appreciation for the second part. The one must find time. The way Prabhupada created the whole moment. The saintly people come to us, right? They're coming to us and giving their association. All we need to do is just step out of our home or just hear from them. We don't need to go anywhere far away places. So they're coming to our town where we live. So the way it is so nice. Of course, Srimad Bhagavatam is another thing. Vaisheshik Prabhu, the way he's creating the moment, to distribute Srimad Bhagavatam. So, it's trying to go to every house,
Yes.
right? So it's so.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Gopal Hari Prabhu. Hari Bol, Dandavat Pram.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, I just, I'm very happy to hear that Prabhupada's father used to feed every day 10 Vaishnava sadhus, invite home and give them sadham and all that. And if you said very nice word that if maybe they are not Vaishnava, but if any one of them is a Vaishnava, and my son will be very much blessed. So you do not know who is Vaishnava and like that. This is nice. And I in that sense I remember that I used to hear very often this song and all that. Bhakata seva karite haya sakala prapancha jaya. There is one song, no, I don't remember the whole song, but that line is there. So by serving Vaishnava devotees or Vaishnava, feeding them and all that, all kinds of prapancha, all kinds of what is that? Name? Prapancha means what is that? Some
miseries
or suffering or something like this, or bad things goes away from the life. So it is a very good that still I did not know that you used to invite every day 10 Vaishnavas and feed them.
Yes, Prabhu, he would invite them and then ask each one of them. And Prabhupada that's why later on in his life, he didn't want to see any sadhus, right? We heard, but see the effect of it. Every day, he would invite them, and then everyone he would say, please bless, Prabhupada would come and he would say, please bless my son to become a pure devotee of Srimati Radharani. Please bless my son to become a pure devotee of Srimati Radharani. So Prabhupada grew up like this, and then he thought my father was serving so many saints, and they were, he could see because he was intelligent, some of them were not. So when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comes, then his friend says, let's go. And he says, oh, I've seen so many sadhus, right? You remember that section, Prabhupada? I've seen so many sadhus. I don't want to see another sadhu. And then he said, no, this one is a genuine sadhu. This one is a genuine sadhu. And so then he leads Prabhupada to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And because Prabhupada had that in his sanskara, therefore he went to see Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So his father was actually right, that among all these sadhus, one of them, if he's a pure devotee, then my son's life is perfect. And that's what happened. All those sadhus, one of them was Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur.
Yeah. So nice. Thank you so much. So much time is up. I think time is over. Still, I took the chance to speak to you. Hare Krishna, Dandot Pranam, Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna, Dandot Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandot Pranam.
Dandot Pranam, Hare Krishna.
Actually, Srila Prabhupada, when you're saying, I was thinking about how Srila Prabhupada came and woke up the whole world, in the sense, Western world especially, because his target was to come to Western world. So he woke up, he made us, aware. I was thinking, people in America don't even know the word karma. And now everybody talks about karma in a common, I'm not telling in a general sense. That means nobody knew about what is going on in this world. In that way, he Jeev Jago, Gaura Chandra Bole. He brought Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings, he Sankirtan, and he literally, that's the transcendental distribution. There's Mridanga, right? That's what you, in the Premadhvani, say that transcendental book distribution ki jai, Brahat Mridanga ki jai. That's what that means it woke up everyone. The sound of Mridangam wakes up everyone. That's what the Shabda Hari. So that means the Bhagavatam, the words of Bhagavatam woke up everyone in this world. I was thinking in that way, Prabhu. Very nice.
That's such a beautiful point. So nicely said. Yes, actually, and this is a point I was going to make. I was trying to remember, and you reminded me, Prabhu, that actually, for like in Naperville, we're very fortunate. We get, so many sadhus, great souls, paramahansas coming through. But even in Naperville, and also especially other places where we don't have advanced association, oftentimes, or any association, then the Bhagavatam is giving us that association, because when we're reading Bhagavatam, we're actually associating with the devotees in the Bhagavatam. Like when we're reading Dhruva Maharaj's story, we're associating with Dhruva Maharaj, who's a Mahajan. Hearing about Bhishmadev, we're associating with Bhishmadev. When we're reading Prabhupada's purport, we're associating with Srila Prabhupada. So by this association, we can get that association, even though we don't have it. So the Bhagavatam actually gives us the advanced association in the evening, in the day, when we cannot associate with devotees, like Lakshmikant was saying. Well, we're not able to go out the door and go to a program, though the programs are so easy, but still we're not able to. Even within our home, we can associate with Bhagavatam. And like you're saying, Prabhu, that through his purports and these books, Prabhupada is awakening, liberating the whole world, and allowing us to associate with him. Prabhupada actually very clearly said, he said that I will never die. I will always be in my books. So very much like you're saying, Prabhupada is here in his books. Actually, he's present, and he's liberated everyone. There's one story that Hanumat Preshak Maharaj tells, just a small incident, that there's once this, he was at the embassy in India, the US embassy, and he was going there, and he needed some green card, some stamp on his visa, this, that. And he's American, he was in India, he was gone to the US embassy. And he this process takes 2 weeks. It takes a lot of time, very difficult. And so he goes to the embassy, and there's a young boy who's very busily working, and he sees Maharaj, and he understands he's a devotee of ISKCON, and so he takes his file and he works on it, and does everything within an hour's time. He stamps it, he does this, all these things, just, goes through all the different ranks, gets it, everything done. And what was supposed to take weeks, he got done in like 2 hours, and he brings it back. And he's just a young, like maybe 18, 19 years old young man. And then he tells Maharaj, he says, actually, the reason why I was helping you so much is because I read the books of your teacher, Swami Prabhupada, and they're really nice. They're very deep, and they've made a big change in my life. I was before very disturbed, very unhappy, and I've been reading these books, and your Prabhupada explains it so nicely, so wonderfully explains. And then he asked Maharaj, he says, if I wrote a letter to him, do you think he would respond? If I wrote a letter to Prabhupada, would you think he would respond to me? And Maharaj was, very difficult, somehow, tells him, he says, very difficult, seeing his thing was hard to tell. He says, actually, Prabhupada is no longer on this planet. And when this young boy, when he hears this, he breaks down and he starts to cry. He's just like crying there. Oh, I've lost him. I've lost Prabhupada. I won't be able to meet him. And Hanumat Peshak Maharaj could understand that actually this young man was associating with Prabhupada. Like for him, he was a person. Prabhupada was, communicating with him. And in such a heartful way, like, someone lost his grandfather or someone lost his, longtime teacher. He was feeling that separation. So what you're saying is very true, that through their Amrita Dhvani, their nectar vibration, their words, they're actually liberating the whole world.
Wow, thank you, sure. Thank you for sharing, Prabhu. Wonderful.
Thank you.
We don't realize what we have that gift until we hear this kind of pastimes. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Anything else? Any final comment? Okay, so we'll stop at this point. Great celebration this evening. Hare Krishna.
Amritakali Mataji has written something, Prabhu.
Yes, thank you, Mataji, for your very kind comment. Yes, and you've made the nice point that all Vaishnavas, both the advanced and our peers, are very, very important. So, so Vaishnava association is with advanced devotees, but also among our peers. They are helping us always advance. And some of our Krishna consciousness we must do with equals to get inspired. So yes, both. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Haribol.